Ricky, those minarets of your old school have been the landmark of Tampa since the gay 90s.
Called the Tampa Bay Hotel, then, wasn't it, Uncle?
The first $3 million hotel in the Southland.
Oh, it's good to be back after 8 years. Good to look down on those towers. Reminds me of my Spanish heritage.
Those minarets are one of the few things that have not changed in the bustling city of Tampa.
They in Ybor City, eh?
The Latin colony has not changed, nor what they make. Clear Llana cigars. You haven't lit yours, Ricky.
Oh, thanks.
With a wooden match, please. The sensitive leaf of fine tobacco picks up no odor from the wooden match. And the flame should barely touch the end of the cigar.
For a fellow who was born in Tampa, I've lots to learn about cigars, I guess.
You're still young, if you want to learn.
I'd better.
There's not much need of a fur trader in Tampa, eh?
Not much, but I'll find something.
Of course, my boy. My friends in New York tell me you're a good fur buyer.
Well, they couldn't fool me on quality. I like to think there's a certain skill to fur buying.
It is the same in my business. The cigar manufacturer must know good tobacco. Come into the library and I'll show you what I mean.
So what have we here, Uncle? A short course on how to sell cigars?
Nothing to do with selling. This little film was made in Cuba more than 25 years ago.
25 years ago?
Yes. The seeding, harvesting, and curing the fine amount of tobacco has changed but little through the years, or the centuries for that matter. Why, Christopher Columbus found Indians smoking, I quote, a roll of leaf, roll in a leaf of itself. Almost the very words our government uses to this day to define a cigar. Turn off the lights, Ricky. I was a young man working in Cuba when this film was made. Perhaps you can spot your uncle in the film.
It should be a cinch.
This film was made before such pictures thought. So I will talk a little. Here in the ancient manner, the fields are prepared for pumping a fine Brilta Apayao tobacco. 4 months later, in the Pina del Rio province, the rich leaves have grown to a fine, healthy size.
Did you ever work in the fields, Uncle Manuel?
But yes, my father insisted that I know La Flor de Tampa from the ground up. Here, still later, the full-grown leaves are stacked for drying. Then it is put into barns for the curing process. Later comes the stringing of leaves into hands.
George, that's you, isn't it, Uncle?
That's right, Ricky. I was a good clerk for dependent days. If I say so myself, who should? Now begins the trip to the great warehouse, where the tobacco is stored for aging.
What's wrong? Did the film break?
Not at all. I stopped it. Turn on the light, Ricky. Well, that's enough of that. Come, your Aunt Lisa will be waiting for you. It was not by accident that a famous philosopher said, cigar smokers make the best husbands.
Really? I'll remember that.
At least they make the most reliable, Ricky.
Aunt Lisa. Oh, it is good to see you. You're still the best looking gal in Tampa, Auntie.
And you are a perfect example of why I married a Latin.
Oh? Why?
Because Latins don't have to kiss the Blarney Stone. It's built right in them.
Wonderful, ageless Auntie. Oh, it is good to see you.
Oh, of course it is, because you were starving. And what does Manuel fill you with? Clear Havana smoke.
Nothing of the kind.
Oh, then why were you in the den with the movie projector? Still, I suppose you should be flattered, Ricky. Your uncle never shows that ancient epic to anyone, unless they're interested in his precious cigars. Or should be. Are you, Ricky?
Well, I never thought I was, Auntie. Until I saw all that went into making a fine, clear Havana cigar. Then I thought I certainly could be.
Splendid. You can make a tour of our factory first thing tomorrow.
Oh, not tomorrow morning, Manuel.
Why not?
Oh, the boy just got home, dear. Tomorrow I shall show him how much his hometown has grown up in 8 years. Come, dinner will be cold.
My Aunt Lisa may not be the official breeder of Tampa, but she certainly could be. She knew all of the important things, like the fact that Tampa's deep water harbor is one of the nation's 4 leading ports in export tonnage. Our city is the gateway to the Caribbean, accommodating hundreds of ships each month from Cuba, the West Indies, and Central and South America. Lisa was as proud of our airport as I had been when I landed here the day before, and realized how much my town had grown up. The tremendous runways of this international airport serve 9 major airlines. She reminded me that while cigars had made Tampa great, she also makes ships and steel, cement, and electrical equipment, and tin cans by the billions, and many, many other products. The new Tampa Industrial Park comprises 1,000 acres. It accommodates many diversified industries, including such multi-million-dollar brewing plants as these, 2 of the largest in the world. Some things had not changed. It was February, time for the Pirate Festival. So the good ship Jose Gasparilla was festooned with colorful pennants. Time enough for the festival tonight, Auntie said. Did I know that Tampa led the world in 2 other products besides cigars? Yes, Tampa now produces and ships 70% of the world's supply of phosphate. 90% of Florida's citrus processing plants lie within the Tampa trade area. In Ybor City, Tampa's Latin colony, the making of handmade cigars, Tampa's oldest industry, reached a record high last year of 713 million. By noon, Aunt Lisa and I were in front of one of the famous Latin clubs in the heart of Ybor City. Before we had lunch, I wanted to walk its streets to see the haunts of my boyhood. The Latin movie theater where I'd been so often enraptured years before. The familiar dolls of all nations were again in the windows, for it was Fiesta time. And of course, the street vendors were out selling their famous deviled crabs. The sight of them made me hungry as always. But Lisa would have none of them. We settled for lunch at one of Tampa's famous Spanish restaurants. We had time for a leisurely lunch before I was to meet Uncle Manuel. But a girl at a nearby table made me forget about eating. Here was a real flower of Tampa. I pretend to have seen nothing except the menu. After all, I've been around long enough not to believe in such nonsense as love at first sight. Still, what happened to my appetite? And she was lovely. I'd barely touched my lunch. Lisa chided me. I was relieved when she was ready to go. I thought my aunt hadn't noticed my interest in this flower of Tampa. Well, I couldn't have been more wrong. All the way to the factory, she kidded me. She pretended not to know who the girl was, and yet she predicted mysteriously that I was sure to meet her. I hoped that she was right, and thanked her for a very stimulating morning. Uncle Manuel was on the Fiesta committee and had a busy week ahead, so he turned me over to the factory foreman. Luis had been in tobacco 30 years. He took me first to the casing area. Casing is simply wetting the ends in stone basins and gently spraying the rest of the hands, as the leaves are called. A hand is actually 30 to 40 leaves, Luis told me. In the tossing and blending area, expert techniques aid in the blending of 30 to 40 different grades of fine Havana fillers. The leaves are first separated according to size and shape, then tossed into great piles to sleep and mature. Luis could tell the quality of the blend by its texture and aroma. In the stripping area, the fine Havana wrapper leaves are stripped of their center stem. 4 women who do this work combine 90 years' experience. Then they go to this group of experts, the selectors. Real craftsmanship goes into selecting for size, shape, and texture. This man has been selecting left and right hand leaves for 50 years. Then we went to the most fascinating area of all, where handmade cigars are created. Everyone here, it seems, is a personality. This apparently frail woman can dole out 100-pound bales. The cigar maker is an ex-pugilist whom everyone calls Baby. The 100 cigar makers in this great room learned their trade more than 20 years ago. Luis proudly reminded me that Samuel Gompers was a cigar maker. This is Luis's wife. She has worked by his side ever since he was his father's helper many years ago. And this is Chino, called so because of the oriental cast to his features. He is an expert at bunching the filler. Watch those deft hands. But the aristocrats of cigar making enclose the fillers and binders with the delicate Havana wrappers. This is Wardo, master cigar maker, known throughout the Latin colony as New Yorkino because he spent his boyhood in the big city. His only tools, a slab of apple wood and a wedged knife called a charrette. He makes sure that the tips of the filler leaves point toward the burn before securing it with the delicate wrapper leaf. Watching him, it looked easy, and yet I knew that it had taken years to learn. The final touch, turning and gumming the tip with the finest gum in the world, found only in Iran. Fascinated, I asked Wardo the secret of fine cigar making.
It is the feel of the hand, senor.
The feel of the hand. Yes, how well he handled the giant Maharaja. When he offered me his masterpiece, I would have smoked it at once. Wardo said no, it was an after-dinner smoke, when one was completely relaxed. There was still much to see, but Luis was also involved in the Fiesta program. It had been a real pleasure to meet the last of the makers of handmade cigars. Machines, I was told, were taking the place of this profession, in which there were no apprentices. On the way out, we stopped to see 2 other skills that had not changed with the years: picking and packing. It seems that men who can skillfully match the various shades of wrapper leaves which is called picking, are even scarcer than makers of clear Havana cigars. In all, there are 32 different shades from deep brown to light green. Each box must be filled with matching shades. When the picking or matching has been skillfully done, the shade gradation is again checked by the expert packer. There are actually hundreds of sizes and shapes among the 700 million cigars made in Tampa each year. Yet the vast majority of all cigars sold come in these 5 basic shapes and sizes: Queens, Panatella, Corona, Pyramid, Panatella Primera. I felt I'd learned quite a bit about cigars in one afternoon. Luis insisted that there was lots more, but that his daughter would be waiting. His daughter, he said. So that's who my flower of Tampa was. No wonder Lisa had said that I'd meet her. Luis invited me to go home with them, and do you know, I accepted. On the way to their home, they discussed plans for tomorrow's big holiday, the Gasparilla pirate invasion. I hoped they'd ask me to join them. Seems Maria had plans all right, but they didn't include me. The next day I was again witnessing a boyhood thrill. The black flag hoisted on the mast of the good ship Jose Gasparilla. Tampa is the only city in the world that is invaded by pirates every February. Oh, no toy ship is the Jose Gasparilla, measuring 171 feet overall. Hundreds of smaller craft converge on Tampa to join in the invasion. Buccaneers pass through the city bridge at exactly high noon. Tampa is soon captured, and the Jolly Roger flies over City Hall. And the night belongs to the bold Buccaneers and their luscious ladies. I stood on the sidewalk, as excited as I had been years before. This was my city, my Tampa, in her most lavish finery. And the Latin Fiesta float reminded me of the dances, the gaiety, the crowning of the Queen still to come. Crowning of the Fiesta Queen had an air of rich, old-world pageantry about it. As always, the Queen was a thing of beauty, a joy to behold. But the next morning I saw her, my own idea of a queen. She arrived at the factory with her dad. Today I was to see how fabulous machines made cigars. But Luis had a meeting. Maria would take me through. Lucky me. My interest in cigar making was increasing by the moment. We went to the machine stripping area first. The growing scarcity of apprentices had caused the building of these ingenious mechanisms that stripped the leaves of their center stems. With increased demand for clear Havana cigars, such machines were a boon to the industry. And this machine bunches the filler leaves. As the girl fed the tobacco to the machine, which carefully bunched it and fed it to the binder, I thought of how often man's inventive ingenuity has learned to match his manual skills. This machine, perhaps the most remarkable in the industry, exemplifies the future promise of automation. The fine wrapper leaf, stretched out on the aluminum plate, is neatly cut and applied to the well-rolled and bound filler. The same fine, clear Havana tobacco you will find in all products made by members of the Cigar Manufacturers Association of Tampa. And of course, the same rare Iranian gum is applied that is used on handmade cigars. And yet, ingenious as these machines are, there are still some operations that must be done by hand. Inspection is one of them. An expert cigar maker makes spot checks to ensure the high quality and firmness of clear Havana cigars. Maria seemed to take almost as much pride in the marching rows of the finished product as her dad. I was impressed with the banding and wrapping machine. The cellophane protects the firm texture and preserves the delicate aroma. Manufacturers are often asked to create special packages, boxes for individual cigars such as this, and the specially selected and banded cigars in glass humidors, all hand work. And of course, the difficult craft of picking the right shade for the right box will always be done by hand. Light up and let up with a cigar. Perhaps Maria thought I was too tense about all this. Well, I'd invite her to dinner. We'd really relax. Talk of other things.
You don't really remember when we were in school, do you, Rick?
I suppose I should say I do, shouldn't I?
No, I wouldn't like that, but I remember you.
Do you, Maria? I wonder why.
Well, because you were the only boy in school who was not going into the cigar business.
Well, I wasn't quite bright as a kid.
And now?
I'll jump at the chance, if Uncle will have me.
You didn't used to think it was the business for you. What changed your mind?
Several things. May I smoke?
Oh, after dinner? Of course. Papa says that's when a fine cigar is the greatest joy. Please, may I? Now, what changed your mind?
Many things. The kind of a man Uncle Manuel is. He thinks about fine cigars just like the fur trappers I've lived with think about fine furs. And then, too,
Yes, go on, Ricky.
well, your dad and all of those fine people in the plant, they made me respect cigars. And you must relax with a cigar, because I seem to be talking about them when I want to talk about Maria. Oh, Maria, do you think men who smoke cigars make the best husbands?
Oh, how could I doubt it, loving Papa? And Mama just adores him.
Do you know many men who smoke cigars?
Oh, loads of them. All my best friends are cigar smokers.
Oh.
But only 3 that I love.
3?
Uh-huh. Papa, Uncle Manuel, and a boy I used to go to school with.
Maria. Oh, Maria. Well, that's about the story. I have some very compelling reasons now for going to work with Uncle Manuel. For going to work in the cigar business in Tampa, which continues to make the finest cigars in the world.